Welcome. My name is Kevin Henry and welcome to this course on Information Systems Auditing. We're going to take a look in this module at audit planning and specifically at how then to plan an information systems audit. It is important for us to have a knowledge of how to set out the strategic and operational plans for an audit. This includes both short-term audit plans, that which we will conduct hopefully within the next year, as well as, of course, longer-term audit plans, strategic looking at major projects or ongoing types of audit direction. In order to conduct an audit, we must first of all understand the environment or the universe in which an audit is being conducted. In order to conduct audits, we have to understand the business. It is the business really that is most important, not just the information systems. So in order to conduct an audit of an information system, I need to understand how that system supports then the business operations. We will then consider, of all of the various activities within the business and the various systems, which ones should be then planned for an audit in this next, should we say, 1 year, or maybe as part of a longer strategic audit plan. In order to conduct audits, we will usually try to focus on the areas of highest risk. We call this then, obviously, risk-based auditing. When we take a look at risk, we must understand both the monetary and non-monetary values of risk. Monetary risk is usually known as quantitative risk, whereas non-monetary areas such as reputation, brand, employee morale, for example, those are more what we call qualitative risk factors. When we understand what the risk is to our business and then to the specific information systems, we will be able to plan appropriate audits based on understanding what would be the impact if we had a risk event and the likelihood of such an event happening. Depending on the severity and, of course, frequency of impacts and likelihood would also then determine whether or not an area is more likely to be subject to an audit this year or maybe in a longer term. When we set out audits, we have in most organizations a myriad of different areas that need to be audited. In most cases, we're not able to conduct enough audits to really address the entire audit universe. So therefore, we set out an audit plan. In audit planning, we will focus then on the higher areas of risk. Quite often, this will mean that we talk to the business owners and we ask them, what are the areas that concern them? Quite often we'll ask questions such as, what are the things that keep you up at night? What are the areas you worry about? And when we talk to the business owners, they will often help guide then the direction of the audit and the areas to be reviewed within the coming year. We will always have the problem of not enough resources. Auditors are in a scarce supply, especially those with adequate skills, and we'll then need to plan the management of those audit resources effectively. We also, in the planning, have to consider what are the ongoing projects and changes within the organization. I'm not going to want to audit an area which is going to be subject to a major, say, change within the next few months. We also need to identify if there's a requirement for additional skills or resources. It could be that we're dealing with an audit of a new technology or a rather difficult area that may require then the skills of an auditor that has those specialized skills, say in forensics, financial forensics, or for example, examination of a web application. When we've identified all of these areas, we can bring those together into an effective audit plan. Once we have an audit plan, we then will review that plan with management. We'll review the plan at least once a year to make sure that we have focused in on the areas of greatest importance. We'll also especially look at areas where there are new control issues, such as new vulnerabilities, new threats, new legislation. where there's been major changes in the risk environment, such as a system which is now opened up to internet access or new technologies that have been introduced. All of these are major changes in the risk environment that could necessitate prioritization of an audit of that area. We also have to examine the impact of new regulations or even new market conditions. New laws and regulations may come out, or new industry standards that we should ensure we are compliant with. We could have major changes within our market, new competitors, and all of these are things that could instigate the need for an audit. Based then on the audit strategy and the audit plan, what do we hope to do this year? We'll then plan the individual audits. In order to plan an individual audit, I first of all need to understand the entire business context. What is the area in which this business operates? Is it highly regulated? Is it very competitive? What is the reliance of the business on individual information systems or departments? When I understand the business, then I will be able to design audits, the individual audits, that will be aligned then with those business needs. It's important when we audit a system, we audit how that system supports the business, because that is the ultimate objective of the system. It does no good to have a system that passes an audit if the system itself is not meeting the business needs. We also need to understand, are there any applicable regulations that also apply? Are there legislation regarding privacy, availability, and these areas that we must ensure have been understood and addressed by the organization? In many cases, we are required today to be compliant with external requirements, such as the protection of personally identifiable information, or PII, or personal health information, PHI. We have to identify what requirements apply to us in regard to then data protection. Now, some of these requirements definitely may be legal, and others may be industry standards, such as the payment card industry data security standard, which is an industry standard, but not necessarily a law. Then, I have to assess whether management and IT are familiar with these. Have they addressed then these requirements related to data protection through creation of policy and appropriate procedures? So the auditor will review the actions or operations through policies and procedures with then the laws, regulations, and standards that are out there. It is important that an auditor recognizes that our task is to measure according to standards, not just according to what we think might be best. Then, through that review and audit process, we should be able to determine whether the business is adhering to those requirements appropriately. Are they aware of and have they addressed those through policies, good statements of intent, and procedures, the actions? An important part of what we need to do is abide by ethics. And ISACA has a series of ethics that we must adhere to as an auditor. Number one, we must support the implementation of and encourage compliance with appropriate standards and procedures for effective governance and management of enterprise information systems. We must perform our duties with objectivity, due diligence, and professional care in accordance with professional standards. Continuing on with ISACA's Code of Professional Ethics, we must serve in the interest of stakeholders in a lawful manner while maintaining high standards of conduct and character and not discrediting the profession or the association. We must maintain then the privacy and confidentiality of the information we obtain in the course of our activities unless disclosure is required by legal authority. Such information, as we gain in the conduct of an audit, shall not be used for personal benefit or released to inappropriate parties. We must maintain competency in our respective field and agree as an auditor to only undertake those activities we can reasonably expect to complete with the necessary skills, knowledge, and competence. And we are required to inform appropriate parties of the results of the work we perform. This would include then the disclosure of all significant facts known to us and that, if not disclosed, could distort the reporting of the results. We must support the professional education of stakeholders in enhancing their understanding of the governance and management of enterprise information systems and technology, including audit, control, security, and risk management. In summary, we should have an audit plan based on a strategic goal that will be reviewed annually to include both short and long-term audits. As auditors, we must follow the ISACA Code of Professional Ethics.